talk about a recent Bill Maher episode addressing our cancel culture attitude towards comedy, which I think he made some really good points about.
Yeah, so I don't know how you feel. I think we've talked about him once or twice before, but I love Bill Maher. He is very much like a progressive. He's a person of the left, but he's older. He's super politically incorrect. And he also just calls out BS. And because he started out as a comedian, he's got this like hard, free expression, free principle position where he really believes in, we're not talking about free speech in the legal sense here, but as a cultural principle and societal expression. He really believes in it, especially when it comes to comedy. And I'm somebody who believes comedy should be outrageous and boundary pushing, and you can't just cancel them for being offensive, because then you can't do comedy. And he went to millions of people on his show this past week and made pretty much that argument, and I thought it was pretty compelling. Take a listen to the first clip.
This war on jokes must end. Will Smith didn't get kicked out of the Oscars for going Ike Turner on Chris, but Kevin Hart got kicked out of hosting it for a joke. Who are these people who say cancel culture isn't a real thing? Just among comedians who've gotten fired and lost gigs for exercising their freedom of expression, the toll is high. Gilbert Gottfried and Kathy Griffin were tasteless. So what? That's why we like them. Comedians are the ones testing where the line is. We can't always be perfect any more than Tom Brady will never throw an interception. Dave Chappelle lost distribution for his documentary, and Sarah Silverman was fired from a film over an old sketch where she wore blackface to make fun of racism. Roseanne lost the TV show she created with her name on it over tweets that were very offensive, but not at all clear Roseanne knew them to be. She is crazy, and I say that as a friend. All comedians are a little crazy, and you need crazy on that wall.
So I think he has a point, Hannah. You can't really do comedy in a world where if you offend somebody, you lose your job.
I'm sorry, I thought the point of comedy kind of was to offend, right? And to help people laugh at themselves. I'm not somebody who's super into stand-up or anything like that, but that's always been my impression of it. And I just feel like if you don't have a thick enough skin to handle it, don't watch comedy. But that's kind of the point. And I think that it's actually a needed component in our society, because it is something that can help people re-examine themselves, re-examine things in culture, and maybe see them through a different lens. You can often help people do that through humor in ways that you can't do it if you just say it to their faces. And so I totally agree with him, and I really love him as a public figure. I've actually liked him for a long time, because he's kind of what I would call, like, maybe not a left libertarian. That might be too generous given his economic stances, but he at least is like a traditional blue dog Democrat that genuinely cares about civil liberties. Yeah, genuinely cares about civil liberties and is consistent in that. And God, I mean, that's so hard to find in either side these days that I really appreciate it. And he's somebody who actually, I think, has a spine. He's got courage. You know, he's not afraid to speak out and to actually take a hardline stance, especially in Hollywood, where you just don't see people do that because they're so afraid of losing people in their audience or losing friends or losing contracts, whatever it is. So I love that he's speaking out on this. And I think that it really is true. You know, we debate, like, how much is cancel culture actually a problem in society? How much is it not? I think that it both is and isn't as big of a deal as people say. Like, I absolutely agree it happens and it's a big deal. On the other hand, I think it can sometimes be a free market response, so I don't get quite as worked up about it as some people do. But when you look at the responses to people in comedy specifically, I think it really is a good indicator of where our culture is on these issues, because it's one thing to kind of have a free market response and say, you know, I don't stand for this. I'm not going to support somebody who thinks this way with my money. It's another thing to say somebody who is explicitly there to make jokes and to tease out things in society and culture, you want to cancel them and take away their livelihood for doing what is actually their job. I do think that's a pretty good indication of how far we've slipped from having a culture that actually does uphold free speech and that is willing to actually listen to things it disagrees with. And that's what a lot of it comes down to, is just that people can't even listen to one another to understand where their side is coming from before they decide that the other person's evil and they're wrong and they have all these abhorrent views and they just want nothing to do with them ever again. And it's really, it's not the kind of society anybody actually wants to live in, and yet people continue to perpetrate it. Okay, let's jump into the next clip.
People who can't take a joke now aren't old ladies in the Bible Belt. They're Gen Z at elite colleges, where comedy goes to die. Kids used to go to college and lose their virginity. Now they go to lose their sense of humor.
I love this last line there, that people used to go to college to lose their virginity and now they go to lose their sense of humor. That's actually quite funny. You're a bit younger than me, so I'm really curious. I didn't have this experience at college. I graduated college 2010, and I did go to like a more conservative college, quote, quote, Belmont University. It used to be Southern Baptist, but it was a music school. So like, I still think it leaned more left as far as where the student body was, but we didn't have this culture. It was not there yet. Maybe it was at other schools, but this was something I dealt with. Did you have a lot of this at UMass? I assume you did.
Absolutely. My campus, UMass, is a very leftist campus in a deep blue state. And this is absolutely the attitude. You know, earlier in the segment, he tells this story about this comedian that told a joke about on a college campus about how hard it must be to be gay and black. And the students kicked him off and interrupted his show because it was actually a sympathetic joke to gay and black people, but because he was not black, they said, you have no authority to speak on these issues. And I'm telling you, I saw that mindset everywhere at UMass, that extreme identitarian mindset. And it disturbs me because we're really starting, at least that portion of society is starting to view speech, the legitimacy of speech, as dependent on the immutable characteristics of the speaker. And I find that extremely alarming and illiberal.
Yeah, it's actually very creepy. I don't know. I saw this video recently that was comparing like a woke person to a racist, and the racist would say something they thought, and the woke person would be like, I think that too. Like, and it was all about like they want separate spaces, and like they actually don't think that like you should be able to play a character who you don't share the race of, and like all these things where it's like, wow, there actually is a lot of crossover here. I think it really comes down to that, and it's just, I don't know, it's really damaging and just sad, to be honest. I really, again, I've always been like a city person and somebody who wants to like be in the mix of things, and now I'm like, man, I get those people who just want to like go out and live, you know, in a rural piece of property and get away from society, because this is not it.
Yeah. And in this next clip, Maher gets into the consequences, because people are often like, oh, it's just one person getting canceled on Twitter or one celebrity getting canceled. They'll be fine. They have lots of money. Or there is this real attempt to discount the cancel culture phenomenon. And partly because it gets exaggerated, it gets hyperbolized by some people on the right sometimes, but it is very real. But here, he kind of gets at what I think the real problem with cancel culture is.
For all those who are constantly demanding an apology for jokes, maybe it's you who should apologize to us. For all the great jokes that we never got to hear, the brilliant thoughts that were never uttered, those are the invisible scars of cancel culture.
So for me, right, earlier he used the example of somebody like Roseanne or Dave Chappelle. It's like, these people are super rich. They're set for life. If they're really canceled, oh, whatever. But it's about the message this sends and how on guard it puts people and how much self-censorship occurs as a result. You and I do this. I don't post certain content to TikTok that I know my followers would love, because they'll ban me again for very milquetoast takes on things like COVID lockdowns. Like that segment where we were talking about masks in Shanghai and everything, I will not be posting any clips from that on TikTok because we'll get flagged or blocked or whatever. And in that case, they're literally owned by the commies. But it's just the phenomenon in general leads a lot of people not to speak out. And that is not good in a society that's supposed to have robust debate to decide what our best policies are.
Yeah, I actually really loved how he framed this, because it is sort of tragic and very sad when you think about all that we lose. And it's not just in the sense that like people self-censor, it's that people don't explore other cultures. People don't get to know people who are different than them. People don't get to be as creative. Like, you actually lose so much as a society. And this is one thing I've always hated about like cultural appropriation, or like half of this stuff they push. It's like, no, that's cultural appropriation is amazing. It's how people learn to love other cultures and to appreciate them and to identify with them. It's how you create new culture. It's how culture moves. Like this wanting to keep everybody segregated and in boxes and silence is just a really sad, I think, evil part of human nature that needs to be squashed and stamped out. And I think we do have to remember it's a lot more than just somebody losing their livelihood. It's what we lose as a culture and as a society, and as individuals we have less rich lives because of this kind of thing. And I love that he's calling it out, and I hope that we continue to see more of it, because man, it's pervasive on both the left and right. You know, the right gets a little bit more hyperbolic about its existence, but they're also also guilty of it. Like, they also love to cancel people, and it's their, you know, one of their favorite things to do. As soon as you don't agree with them on a policy issue, they want to shut down your speech and take away your free market rights every bit as quick as the man on the left does. So it's gotta stop. People have got to start being more consistent on this and really find a way to become more tolerant and just intellectually curious to hear what people who are different than you have to say about things, and to be able to like and know people who don't agree with you on everything. It's okay. Like, I think Brad and I are proof of that. We disagree on things, you know, frequently, and it's fine. And I think it makes us both smarter and sharper and helps us think. And we hear that back from our audience all the time. You guys make us think. So we're going to keep fostering that culture here, but it's unfortunately hard to come by these days.